Holy hell, this is a show that I have waited most of my life for. So I think my guest needs no introduction, but we have the godfather, the father, the uncle of Troma. We have Lloyd Kaufman with us. Uncle Lloyd, thank you so much for being here.
Well, it's a great privilege, and thank you so much for the beautiful setup with Toxie peeking over, shyly peeking over with his mop. It's a great honor. Thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. It's truly an honor. And, I've had the pleasure of meeting you a couple of times in the past. And I will say that you are one of those people that, they tell you in life a lot of times don't meet your heroes because sometimes, you don't know what you're going to get. And I've had that unfortunate side in the past. I've met, maybe a musician that I looked up to, and the
Yeah.
experience was not all it was cracked up to be. But I will say, meeting you several times at several conventions. You are so selfless. You are so loving and giving to your fans. You sign everything. You don't charge people to sign stuff. You're there just being part of the community, and you've done it for so long. And I can't thank you enough for doing that because I know that there are fans out there that they just wait that moment. It's kind of all they're thinking about, and all it takes is 5 seconds in that moment for somebody's emotions, their dreams to be crushed from just those interactions. And I know you deal with thousands of people at a time, and you're always traveling, and you really thank you for being who you are all these years.
Well, thanks to my parents and my brother and sister and my wife who've molded me into a mealy mouthed husband. 52 years of marriage. Now, you know a lot about movies, and it's so great to talk to somebody who's a real cinephile because so many of the interviews, especially when we were promoting the $50 million Toxic Avenger, a lot of the journalists, mainstream, they didn't know it was like nothing. So tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
I don't want
It's
to do
it's
that.
I mean, it's the worst
Humiliating.
kind of thing. Yeah, and I would not consider myself a formal journalist. That's important, and a lot of my fans know that. I've been doing the creative journalism space for about 10 years. It's mostly been in the video game space, but with Press for Time, this podcast came out of pure passion of, us trying to expand our medium from just doing like traditional written reviews and stuff like that. But
Right.
for me, it's just my childhood way of celebrating, as I said offline, just my love of people that are passionate about what they do. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you are on a top list of very small amount of people in my life that have influenced me creatively because of just how long one you've been in my life creatively, but at a time, I think a lot of people forget that when inspiration comes into people, there's usually a reason, there's usually a catalyst. And, people always ask, like, why Toxic Avenger? And for me, why Toxic Avenger 2? And I think I've told you offline in the past, but like, I am that guy that will die on the hill that Ron Toxie 2 is peak Toxie. He is what I feel a lot of other Toxic Avenger products have tried to be because he gave him, in my opinion, the most personality. And I grew up with that movie in a way because I dealt with a lot of personal things, and as many kids do, they find escapes. And Toxic Avenger 2 was such an escape for me, where the movie had to be purchased on VHS like three different times because I watched it so much the tape would break.
Wow.
And it's
Wow. Woo.
it's it really it is it's one of those things where, like, I understand now as an adult creatively, you know you're always going to evolve with your art, and obviously you've done so much in 50 years with Troma, but to see that Toxie has been making such a lasting impression, but really 2025, to me, it's like it's so heartwarming to know that, like you said, mainstream media, they know who the Toxic Avenger is just from the movie alone, but it's
Yeah.
opened the gateway for people to get introduced. And the last thing I want to celebrate, because I really want you to talk, is just thank you for taking the time to go back to 2 and 3 to make Mr. Melvin and help those movies get celebrated more, because I feel like they have been so underrated for so long. And to see people seeing the light and seeing the cast and seeing the story And I have not unfortunately seen Mr. Melvin yet, but I cannot wait. But thank you for taking that time to go back to that and celebrating, those two movies. I know you had a lot of history with making them, so much footage, making them two movies. But yeah, thank you again for that.
Well, of course. And now, what is really great is Troma. It's mainly young people who have had no experience who rise up, like James Gunn and Trey Parker and Eli Roth, Samuel Jackson, and go on and on. But what's interesting about Toxic Avenger 2 and Toxic Avenger: The Last Temptation of Toxie, which is the third one, uh, they were originally written as one movie, and Andrew Miller, who's my assistant and now the producer of Poultrygeist 2, being directed by Mercedes Amuse, he and Adam Pelletier, who's the star of the recent film noir that we're trying to finish up now. Adam and he found the original Mr. Melvin script in our basement at Troma building. And on their own, without saying a word, they came suddenly showed up months later with Mr. Melvin. And what's great is the performances, because the movie was originally one movie, but because the Troma rides the back of the bus, and the censor board destroys all the movies and destroyed so many independent companies, we had to the theaters wouldn't play a longer movie. That was that wasn't, we were not allowed, so we had to chop it into two, and they're okay. And they're good, but you put the Mr. Melvin, the Phoebe Leger's performance, and both Ron Fazio and the other guy do a great job as Toxic Avenger, and and the continuity is so much. The story works. The Japanese section, it makes sense, and the rather touching, and I mean it really comes together as a longer film. And at some point, well, it's getting theaters. If you want a link, we'll get you a private link. You could look at it and see what. I'd
I
love to know
I
what
would
you
be
think.
honored. I would
Well,
be
let's
honored.
remind me, either email or call me or Andrew, and we'll get it to you. And
Awesome. Thank you.
it'd be great to have you see that. Now, Troma Now, our streaming service, combines 52 years of Troma plus hundreds of films we didn't make, including a lot of classics from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, which have come to Troma Now, our streaming service, because there aren't too many independent distributors left, and these films need to be seen, and unfortunately they get lost in the dust to some extent.
Right.
Frank and Hooker, for example, which I think is still out there doing very well. We're distributing that, Maniac Cop, a number of others, and they're all on Troma Now, plus about 12 new movies every month by the future Trey Parker and James Gunn's and Matt Stone's and Samuel Jackson's, etc. And Troma Now is great. First month is free, and you can see all four Toxic Avengers, all the cartoons. A very Troma Christmas. We got a Christmas cartoon that's families loved for over, I think, about 10 years now. And the Rowan collection of classic black and white Christmas cartoons, some of which will make you weep. There's so many good movies there on Troma Now, and our fans can get on for free for the first month, and of course, hopefully they continue to stay on it and pay us $4 a month or $4.99. But if they can't afford it, they can just keep creating new emails and stay on them forever. But it's
Given
that's
the secrets you shouldn't be giving, but you
well,
know,
our fans are poor, and I understand that, especially now in this terrible economy we have, and the richer people getting rich, and the rest of us, uh, you know, struggling.
getting through it
Many
barely.
of them,
Yeah.
especially young people, young men, especially too. 25% of college graduates are unemployed, and blah blah blah. So we're in a tough bind now, and I feel bad. So if people need to get on for free, it's perfectly okay. But if you can afford it, it helps keep Troma going. And we're like
Absolutely.
the last of the dodo birds. You got to help preserve us.
No, yeah, your
And
legacy
you are
will live
doing
on
that at
forever.
this very moment. You're bringing Troma Entertainment to the minds of many great cinephiles. Thank you for that.
No, my pleasure. I mean, I think I talked to you about having, Ron on my show and how the weird coincidence of the day we did that show, I scheduled it to release. I put it out one morning. That same day, maybe 2 hours later, the bloody disgusting news article came out about Mr. Melvin, and I couldn't
Wow.
believe myself. I mean, we talk about willing things into existence. All I did was boast and boast about that movie, his performance, and just hoping that people find that episode because again, Toxic Avenger is something that's being searched now. And obviously with the new movie and we have the video game that's coming for Toxic Crusaders, there's just a lot to celebrate, in all the years that he's
The
been
Ahoy
around.
comics. By the way, the Ahoy comics. Don
Yes,
Martin. Speaking of heroes who might have disappointed one, Don Martin. From the time I was a child, he was a cartoonist for Mad Magazine and had characters that made funny noises like black. They'd burp and fart and
right.
make these weird
Like all the mad
BS.
balls and stuff.
Yeah, Fester and Carbuncle were two of the characters. But one day I got to meet him at the San Diego Comic Con, maybe 30 years ago. And it was that they have I only went once. They call it the Eisner Awards. It's like the Oscars of comic books. And I got to meet him. And he was I was like, "Hi, Mr. Martin. I've been a hero. What fans say to me." And the guy was like, and walked away. Sort of. But that's how artists are.
Right,
Some
right,
are more
yeah,
outgoing than others. John Carpenter's not terribly friendly, but he's a genius.
right,
So
right,
Picasso, well, Picasso was a bad dude, but he great artist, one of the greats of ever for all time. But
yeah,
what do you do? That's what art. Artists are very often troubled souls, and but you got to cut them some slack. Better that
absolutely,
than a hedge fund leader who's working
yeah,
with Trump to help children in Africa starve to death by cutting out AID and SNAP benefit. Oh God, I don't even want to go into it.
yeah.
So
No, I
this is
understand.
a tough time for young people. So no reason to charge them. Well, I've never charged for autograph or signatures. And now, if you want a valuable autograph, that's Michael Hurst because my partner of 52, more than 52 years, he doesn't go out in public, and his signature is very rare. And if you ask for it, we have a store called tromadirect.com. And if you ask for it, you can get Michael Herz's signature and mine together on a poster or something, which is rather rare because Michael never goes out to the festival
Conventions, right?
convention or anything.
Well, as you know, that's a tough part of the business is attending and traveling and not only for the fans, but obviously just to promote the brands and every show that I've been to, every convention, every Monster Mania, Chilla Theater, Troma's there. You are there, like you're doing the work that people in your role in many other scenarios are not.
Well,
So
I don't mean to interrupt
no,
you, but I think trauma is historic for many reasons. One of which is for 52 years, it's been entirely fan fueled. When James Gunn came for the first interview, it was very clear he was a Troma fan. He came there he had a master's at Columbia University. He had written a novel. He's he had a lot of privileges as a young man by being a born bourgeois, and yet he stayed with he started with us, and that's true with Trey Parker and all these people,
right,
and everybody who's ever worked for us. Andrew, my current assistant, started as a driver on Power of Positive Murder, but he was so attentive and careful and professional and safe. And he worked his way up, and now he's producing. In fact, he became one of the producers of Power of Positive Murder, which is our so-called. Well, we tried to make a film noir, and where a few months will be finished. but he is producing Poultry Guys Part Two, which Mercedes the Muse has shot, and she's editing now, and we've got very good music, and it's got some songs.
That's great.
That's a very good one. And he's also producing. He's not the only producer, but there's another movie about camp Camp Swine Lake, where people. It's a fat farm, but people a fat camp, but
Okay.
people transform into pigs. And,
Oh boy.
it also has it's a mixed genre like all our movies, and the
Right.
mixed genre we pioneered that, by the way. We got our movies because they were not classified as straight horror, straight comedy, straight sci-fi, straight sex, straight politics, straight sociological. Yeah, it was difficult. But now all the major, you've got Demi Moore and that thing that were Academy Award nominated. You've got all these
Yeah,
HBO
it's true.
movies that even have graphic blowjobs, but they're comedy and sex and horror all mixed together. So I think that's kind of brought Troma to a bit to the foreground, because when people talk about bring her back or talk to me, they inevitably bring Troma into it, and those are great movies, but they're terrific. The guy who did Weapons is a big Troma fan.
Yeah,
He's doing he's brilliant. So
it's amazing.
obviously you can see Troma in even today in South Park.
Yes,
Uh,
100%, 100%.
And the same with the little pieces in Superman with James Gunn. When he did Scooby Doo, he had the dog farting and all that.
Yeah, it's
So
great.
Shomer's got a big footprint, but the great thing is that Michael Hers have been partners for. I don't think there's been a studio, especially one that's only run by fans,
Right.
that has existed for 52 years with such a track record. It's not that we make money, but I think we've left a big footprint. There's a whole school of trauma filmmaking. It's like the Hudson School of Art. It's all over the world. I appeared somewhere recently. Oh, no, it was at Forbidden Planet, our favorite
Okay.
comic book and collectible store,
Yeah.
and I was signing stuff, and a guy came in from a stuntman from Switzerland who says he has a whole channel there about trauma, and Joey is his name, and unfortunately he had to leave New York, go back. He's on a film over there. But he says people, no matter where you go, there are people making movies influenced by trauma, and they say we're making a trauma movie, that kind of thing. And very often they're not. They're making something
Right.
that's a sausage, and you got to have something to say, and you have to have read
Absolutely.
a few books, and you have to have seen a few movies. You don't just go out and smoke dope or take acid and then make a movie. I did a lot of that when I was in Yale, but I don't do that. I mean, I do a shitload of drugs, but I don't do it while I'm making a movie. It's not
Right.
a party. It's
There's a
not a
time and there's a
party. It's
time
a
and a place
very
for it.
it's very dangerous. We have 100 people on set usually, many of them young and inexperienced, and you have to stop them from running and make sure they wear rubber sole shoes, and if they're driving a vehicle, one horn for going forward, and two beeps to warn if you're backing out. All that kind of protocol. Very important. So nobody, and we've never had I don't think we've had an injury on any of our sets. We had COVID outbreak on Power of Positive Murder, and we had to sequester people, including one of our stars. But we had two. One was registered nurse, and the other had taken nursing, and they went around every morning. One of the biggest items on our list of the art department was buying 1,000 COVID tests,
Okay.
and every morning the two nurses would go around to everybody, including me, and test for COVID. And if anyone showed it, we had about 13 people who had to be sequestered, or whatever you call
Uh,
it.
yeah.
But we
I mean,
and we had to rearrange the schedule for one of the stars.
right, right. Yeah, and I know that delayed production for a lot of people, especially, when you're like in the middle, like you were already filming or prepping filming leading
Yes,
into
no,
that
we were
year.
filming.
So
Yeah, it was like the first week of filming. It was
right,
like instantly. It was perfect. And then, of course, every other disaster, but nothing dangerous, and nobody got hurt, and that's the most important thing. And we've had that. If I'm knocking on wood now, that's 52 years of that. And I can't think. I don't think there's any Hollywood studio that can say they haven't killed people and animals.
right. And it speaks to you as a creator, as an owner, as just being part of the fandom, because I feel like you were a fan first, and it shows in all the work that you've done. It shows in all the work that your teams have done. So I commend you for that.
Are you on Letterboxd at all? Or?
I am not. My co
Oh,
my co-host Tyler is.
well,
He's another.
Tyler can look at my letterbox. Last 4 years, I've been looking at a lot of movies that I kind of grew up with, like you growing up with Troma. I grew up with Samuel Fuller and John Ford and Jean Renoir and those kind of guys.
It's funny because a lot of people kind of grow up with the norm. Like they'll say, "Oh, I loved this movie and that movie," but like not only did I like Toxic Avenger, I was into stuff like this. If you remember the movie Street Trash, you
Yeah,
know.
sure. It's on. I think the guy Justin Martell, who was one of the producers on hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, was produced the new
the
Street
re-
Trash, much better than the original, I'm sure.
Yes, hands down. And I had the director on the show, and we got to talk a little bit about that. And again, it's
He's
just
great. The
yeah,
director, that guy's
he's
very
very
talented,
talented.
and
Yeah,
Justin
for sure.
Martell is brilliant too. He's an amazing person and totally brave and honest and straight and no bullshit. Perfect, hardworking, creative. He just got married too. That's the only mistake.
It's great when you find like little movies like this that kind of they break the mold. They don't follow traditional norms, and I think that we're in a world that we need more of that because
Well, hey, I don't want to. I'd hate to miss to interrupt, but Lily Hayes Kaufman, our eldest daughter, made a documentary over 10 years called "Occupy Cannes" about the Cannes Film Festival in Troma, and she had not had any other than writing. She sold a TV show to NBC and to somebody else but just that she wrote. But this time she had to make a movie, and she didn't really know how to edit and all that, opticals and animation. And Mike Shapiro did the animation for the. You can also, if you'd like to see that, Andrew, or I can send it to you or my daughter. Anyway, it's been in the big genre festivals, Fantasia and Sitges in Spain and Czechoslovakia, Poland, LA.
wow,
And it's still going, and it's very good. You might enjoy it. It's
absolutely
It's a funny, educational, and bittersweet. But
right.
Mike Shapiro, Brian McNulty, who worked for us on Poultrygeist, the original, and years ago, 30 had to be 30 years ago, and also oh man. Anyway, another editor whose name fails me now, who also saved Occupy Can. Anyway, they worked, they suffered at Troma for a long time, and here it is. How many years later, and they look at it as rosy pictures. We sleep on the floor, and the people have to learn how to defecate in a paper bag because there's not enough bathrooms. That kind of stuff and yet they look back on it as a great experience, and they feel like a family. I mean, you've talked to people on Power of Positive Murder. I mean, one of them got married. It's quite a number of marriages have occurred on our sets, or
Wow,
proposals, and
right.
led to marriage. And most of the people who've worked on Troma know each other, and in fact, a lot of independent filmmakers use our green screen just to come in, and we let them use it. And I also do cameos usually for free, and unless
You,
I get James Gunn to fork over some money.
right, true. I mean, I love seeing your cameos in your own movies. Those are some of my favorites, honestly.
Well, well,
especially
Power of
especially
Positive Murder.
Poltergeist.
You'll, you'll see me in Power of Positive Murder for sure. You'll see
Awesome.
more of me than you want.
What did he say?
I mean, you've done that in the past. That's not new. Let's be
Well, we
honest.
have we have a kind of a group of actors that we've used for quite a number of years, and some of them have moved up, but they are nice enough to come back and do. Zach Amico has got like a stage in Las Vegas now. There's 7,000 people there, and he's got a very successful podcast, and uh, Katie. From Return to Newcomb High and Return to Katie Cochran has started her own company after starring in Terrifier and also having a piece of that. She
Right.
started her own company and as have others who believe in safety and love movies and she's very well educated. She reads books and she is young, but she has seen a lot of movies and well and and what's fun is her college. She had a starring role in a Troma movie,
Oh wow.
and her college wouldn't give her credit for that. They wanted her to sit in a classroom and listen to somebody who had never been on a set.
Right.
But it's the light world we live in. So, but meanwhile, she's now look at where she is now, and I'm sure I think her college has already had her come back to speak.
That's amazing.
Well,
I mean,
it's life. It's the
right.
people are scared. They're afraid. College
Yeah.
is afraid to give a somebody credit for working on a feature length movie for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then getting good reviews in the New York Times. That's not good enough for Marymount College.
Yeah. It's tough.
But Katie
It's
Cochran fooled them. She's on the way up, like so many Troma fans and discoveries. I don't know that I have any talent as an artist. I think it remains to be seen. But I have a
I
talent.
I
I have a
disrespect. I disagree.
well, yes, and thank you for that. But I have a talent for picking talent. That's for sure.
I can agree with that 100%. It shows. It shows in your work. It shows in just the people that I see that work with you. The people that run your website, run your video promotions. You can see the passion. Because I think it takes a certain love of the medium and the business to be able to be one with it. Because I feel like there's no other business like yours. I know that we have other
That's for
film
sure.
companies. Think about like Full Moon over the years. Like that's the only comparison I would say growing up,
Well, they haven't
that we
been
tried.
around. They've not
Right,
been around so long. They keep changing the name. It used to be
right,
other names. So at least we've had the same management, same company, same just
exactly.
different trauma teams,
Right.
generations of
Well, yeah, I
young.
was gonna say everybody evolves, and like you said, there's so much success. People go on to doing other things, and it starts with you, which is great.
But nonetheless, to make trauma survive is a challenge because the world, you have now where Comcast is going to buy Warner Brothers apparently, and the
Well,
more consolidation, more trouble for the independent artist, and lower prices being paid for YouTube, Amazon, all that.
right,
To the filmmakers, to the artists. In fact, I just read, or Michael Hers just read that one of them is throwing all the independents off the air. Is it Paramount? One of the big platforms is getting rid of all independent like us. So Troma now is very important. Also, if you want gifts, tromadirect.com. You get the unique gifts that nobody T-shirts, posters, toys,
well, I was gonna say
pins.
physical media, which is, it's one of those battles that we have of a dying breed that, it's getting a little resurgence, but you never stopped. You
They're
always
great
had
gifts.
DVDs,
They're great.
Blu-rays, yeah,
Our DVDs and Blu-rays. We got hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, Return to Nukamai. They all have feature-length documentaries about the making. If you see the documentary about Poultry Guys, the first Poultry Guys, the documentary is like a year of film school at least, and it's funny. It's educational. People get married, people punch each other out. I mean, it's chaos. But it shows you how hard a trauma movie is to make because we're making $20 million a movie, $20 million movies for half a million or less. So it's very stressful, and both for the safety reasons and our three rules of production, as you know: safety to humans, safety to people's property, and then in smaller type, make a good movie. And we have the art department create posters, nice ones, that we
Right.
put everywhere on the trucks, on the locations, sometimes in camera range, as we did with Terra Firma, 1999. But the point is to brainwash people the same way that the Chinese brainwash their population over there. We try to get people in their heads, safety,
Right.
safety, safety, safety.
Absolutely. That's important.
Still
It's not talked
dangerous.
about enough. That's the big thing. It's people don't talk enough about behind the scenes because the average consumer watches the movies, they read the content, they move on. They don't take the time to understand what goes into it. And that's something that I love to celebrate too, because safety is really a really important aspect. And I've spoken with another one of my favorite directors, who's not loved by everybody, Mr. Uwe Boll, and
Oh, yeah, he's just, yeah.
safety is his big thing too, and it's really important to
Well,
celebrate
he's a
that because
doctor. Uwe is a doctor too, Doctor
right,
Uwe Boll. But he showed up at Troma Dance this year. It was about 2 months ago. Terrific. You know about Troma Dance Film Festival. That's been
yes,
going on for 28 years now. All
right,
free, all free. Somehow we managed to do it for free. Get a good venue, get the, do it, and all volunteer, and it's terrific. The movies this year were really great, really, really good, and fans contribute at the door if they wish, but otherwise it's
right.
free.
That's amazing.
And I
And
think we got the $20 from our fans this time.
oh boy, we
No,
got to
no,
do
we sold some
we
merch.
got to do better.
We
Yeah,
sold
that's
some merch. We sold merch, and but it's anyway. It's all free for the fans, and you don't have to pay to submit your movies. And the movies are terrific. Some of them end up on Troma now,
which is
so
great.
the good ones, the ones that are really, really top. So ask your fans to check out both tromadirect.com and for gifts, and then well, actually, perfect stocking stuffers or more ambitious gifts at tromadirect.com.
Yes,
Yeah.
and everybody that's watching, we're gonna have links to everything
Oh,
below the
thank you. That'd
video.
be great. That'd be
Listen,
terrific.
I am a shill. I'm not shills for anything, but I will tell you, and it's important to share now. I am a shill for Trauma. Okay.
Yay! Well, thank you. Well, our fans, that's again, it's we have no money for advertising, so it's all. Oh, that's great.
I
Terrific.
mean, I buy the stuff that people are like, "Why are you buying that? Why not?" Because no one else is gonna make something like that. That's how I look at it.
Hey, Ahoy Comics has a new comic book, Toxic Avenger comic books, and it's very much influenced, I think, by Mad Magazine. And the art is terrific. The paintings totally different from Marvel comic interpretation
Right.
artistically. Toxic, and they're great. And they have crossover comic books. They have a series with Toxie and Jesus.
Yep.
They've got several series going that are very good, and the artwork is really wonderful. You can see some of it on my Instagram.
Yes, you have. You've shared a lot, and I love it too. And it's nice to see that people are interested enough to reach out to you to request that licensing to work with somebody like Toxie and any other characters. But I know he's the one that a lot of people like love to be a part of, and
Yeah,
it's awesome that you're willing to allow people to do that, because some
yeah.
people get protective of their IPs, you know what I mean?
Well, for we have friends who are filmmakers, and the Kabuki Man car crash is in probably 100 movies that we didn't make. Including
Yes.
all our own movies since James Gunn and since Romeo and Juliet. And Toxies in a lot. We let people, we don't let, we try to limit it to 30 seconds per shot, but we do give free to people who can't afford it. But if it's a big time person, if we can make a few bucks, because we're
Absolutely.
always we're trying to survive and payroll and keep making
Yeah.
movies and making those Blu-rays that
Right. It's
people
not
don't.
cheap.
Well, also it's hard to be profitable. It's as
Right.
you know, it's a cult audience, and you have to make
Agreed.
1,000 each time, and adds up.
Right. No, absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough for that because again, for me, knowing how many times I had to replace my VHS now that I have my Blu-rays, I have my DVD still. I still have my original Tox box, which I
Right.
know probably
Very
will
good.
never see the light of the day, but
I'm
you
sure
know,
it's gone up in value. There are new VHS of Kabuki Man and
yes.
Toxie, and there's about 10 that Nerd's Nest has put out, as well as they've got like a giant Toxie toy. It's big,
Yes.
like that big. It's beautiful.
I
And
would love to
selling like
request
crazy.
if you're talking to anybody about any licensing, we need a Ron likeness Toxie figure of some sort. I boast to my friends at Numbskull to make a duck of Toxie.
Uh,
I need this Toxie because I mean we've had Toxie figures, and they're always falling. But with the Super 7, this was more of a mold from Toxic Crusader, just repainted. We're not being given a mold from the movies, and I think that
yeah.
the fans would appreciate that. I wish I
Um,
could make the toys myself. I'd
we
offer
wish
to
we
do
could
that.
do the same too, but we got no dough. I got to
That
go.
too. Yes,
Unfortunately, we're got people out there.
absolutely.
So
Thank you
we
so much
can
for your time.
be happy to do another chapter if you'd like, and just get Andrew. I've got time, so especially now
Absolutely.
during the holidays, there's a lot
Sounds
of
like a plan.
downtime.
In
All
that
righty,
case,
well,
to be
best.
to continued.
Thank you very, very much, and please thank your fans and thank the Troma fans everywhere. So I will wish you well, and I'll say
Talk to you
goodbye.
soon.
Thank you. Thanks
Take
again.
care.
Bye bye.